2, 1, 8.
On KBLA, James Farr's on the mic, lifting up the people, keeping hope in sight. With Altadena spirit, he fights the good fight, speaking truth to power, shining the light. Flames try to break us, but we're standing tall. Lost our homes, but we ain't lost at all. Through the smoke and the ashes, we see the sun. Altadena's fight has just begun. Just begun, begun. We'll rise again, we'll build it strong. Through the struggle, yes, we belong. Hand in hand, through dust and pain, Altadena's heart remains.
Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I'm your host, James Farr. This is the show of record, and we are chronicling for the nation the devastating and deadly January Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. I want to thank you for allowing me to share this space with you this weekend. You may be out in the car running some errands. It's a little bit cooler today, maybe a good day to get out in that backyard. And some of y'all may be even catching the last weekend of the summer, so you probably got the pit going. And others I know like to sit in the garage and gripe at The Conversation Live while they're smoking their cigars. But again, we appreciate you for having us in your space. Before I tell you about today's program, I want to invite you to follow us on social media at KBLA 1580 across all of your social media platforms, and you can follow me at James Farr Live. I'm across all of the socials, and if you've missed any of our previous episodes, this is episode number 26. You can find all of our past episodes podcast version on all major podcast platforms. You can go over to the KBLA YouTube page and find this program and many of the other programs here on our station. Let me tell you about what we're going to do today. Bottom half of the hour, the report is in. Let's play some sound and I'll give you some context.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to open an investigation into the Fire Aid concert that took place in the aftermath of the devastating Los Angeles fires. What has happened, what we have learned, is absolutely beyond belief. In the aftermath of these fires, which destroyed 18,000 homes and killed, tragically, 30 people, there was a Fire Aid concert in which a number of high-profile musicians generously agreed to perform, and people responded in an amazing way. Tens of thousands of people donated, raising $100 million for what they were told was direct relief for the victims. But now we've learned that this money didn't go to the victims at all. Instead, it went to nonprofits, some of which have nothing to do with fire relief, where they promote things like voting and civic engagement and multi-generational power building. Some of them aren't even located in LA. So I've asked the Attorney General to open an investigation in order to restore the intent of the donors, in order to make the victims whole and to bring accountability. I yield back.
What if you can create your own website?
Just this past week, the administrators of the LA Fire Aid concert released an audit, a self-imposed audit, an independent audit, and their findings, some may agree with, some may disagree with, but the transparency is there. Was it relief or was it waste? I'm opening up the phones today, 800-920-1580. I want to hear from you about that. It's 800-920-1580. We'll open up the phones at the bottom half of the hour, but coming up in the top of the hour, she is a member of the Congressional House and the Ways and Means Committee. She's the Congresswoman in the 28th District. She's a Democrat. She's my representative. She represents the Altadena, San Gabriel Valley, Pasadena region. Congresswoman Judy Chu will be joining us when we come forward a little bit later in the hour. And we want to talk with her about the way for Altadena and what's happening at the federal government level, right on the brink of a potential government shutdown once again. Looking forward to that conversation with the Congresswoman very soon. Big happy birthday to our Chief Visionary Officer, Tavis Smiley. Today is his birthday. Also, it's Virgo season. Shout out to Doc Melly Mel, my colleague, Dr. Melina Abdullah. She has a birthday this month. And also Dion Raymond. I'm wishing all the station Virgos birthdays. Dion Raymond, host of the Justice Files. You hear her on Sundays at 10 and 10. It's also her birthday this month. And then today is, September 13th. It is also the angelversary of Tupac. And it's 29 years ago that Tupac met his demise in Las Vegas. I remember vividly where I was, not only the day, September 7th. Why? Because that was my birthday when he was actually shot in Las Vegas, and then 6 days later today, I know exactly where I was. So y'all gonna be hearing some Tupac today. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. And then finally, this Charlie Kirk murder, assassination, silencing, whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to give a whole lot of time to that today. I had something totally different in mind. But I've never had a problem with chickens coming home to roost. I just want those chickens to know our HBCUs, our kids, our wives, our children, we are not on y'all lists. I'm going to leave it there. It's Christians advocating for the death penalty. I'm going to leave it there. Mental health now is an issue, and Charlie would want folks to pray for him. I'm going to just leave it right there. When we come forward, my conversation with Congresswoman Judy Chu, she's hanging on the line, and we'll get straight to it. Only on KBLA, Talk 1580, We Got Your Black.
Out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record, unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
All through your body. The blows like a 12-gauge shot. Feel me? And God said he should his one begotten son to lead the wild into the ways of the man. Follow me. Eat my flesh, flesh of my flesh. Come with me. Hail Mary, run quick ski. What do we have here?
KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I am your host, James Farr. Welcome forward. As I told you folks, we wanted to continue this conversation to have a better understanding from the top down community. 19 lives lost in the flames. More than 400 more are gone in the aftermath of the fire. Stress, illness, broken bodies, and rebuilding barely has begun. With fewer than 200 permits pulled, FEMA is slow. Insurance payouts are falling short. Neighbors are leaning on neighbors just to survive. And now Washington, D.C. is starting what looks like could possibly become another governmental shutdown as survivors wait. Our guest this afternoon is Congresswoman Judy Chu. She represents California in the 28th District. This district, my Congress representative. She sits on the powerful Ways and Means Committee, and that's the committee that decides how relief is taxed, how budgets are allocated throughout the federal government. And we wanted to talk with the Congresswoman just to get a better understanding of what's happening in our nation's capital. Congresswoman Judy Chu, welcome. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Well, I just returned from Washington, D.C., so I have a lot to say. Yes.
I bet you do. And we're going to ground and make sure that we center this conversation, obviously, with the intention of why we're here today, which is on the recovery, the fire in Altadena and how it's impacting our community. But I'd be remiss if we didn't. The country right now is in a different space. And I haven't given much airtime to this. There are plenty of spaces for that. But just 3 days ago, Charlie Kirk, a very controversial conservative influencer, was murdered. And I just wanted to get your reaction to where we are now and kind of the significance of the Charlie Kirk murder.
There is a huge amount of tension in Washington, D.C. because of this. I certainly believe that nobody should be harmed by gun violence, regardless of what they say. That is not right, and we should all have the ability to speak our minds and express political points of view. So it was stunning to me. Absolutely stunning that this young man could have been targeted like this from somebody who was around 200 yards away and killed him with just one shot. It is not right. And the level of political discourse in our country is getting to be very, very concerning, very scary, actually. We should have a society where we feel that it is okay to express our opinion, but it's increasingly not the case.
No, it's not. But what we do here on KBLA Talk 1580 is we will say the quiet part out loud. And when we look at this fire and the devastation and even the recovery, right? I mean, there are some things that just have to be said. And so we're grateful that you've taken time out of your schedule to afford your constituents, our community, what you're doing in Washington. I mean, it's as straightforward as that. So I kind of want to use that as our framing, but perhaps, as we kind of are, I don't want to make this a civics lesson, but, perhaps folks may not quite understand what the Ways and Means Committee does and how that relates to Altadena and this wildfire recovery.
The Ways and Means Committee has under its jurisdiction numerous very important areas. One is it provides the financial background for any bill that goes through. So it is the money committee. But also it has under its jurisdiction Social Security, trade, healthcare, and worker and family support, which is basically the foster care system. And so they're very, very important pieces of jurisdiction here. And I've made it my mission ever since that terrible, terrible night of January 7th to ensure that we in Altadena and Pasadena would get the federal support that was necessary to help people recover. And I'm so glad that FEMA was in full operation at that time and that there wasn't that threat of disbanding FEMA, because they did come immediately. In fact, they brought 400 personnel. They set up their disaster recovery center. They dispensed the aid immediately. By our count, it's about $3 billion worth of aid that came through, immediate aid for people to survive, as well as the SBA loans. And then, of course, there was the debris removal. That was on our federal government as well, because it was the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Originally, they were going to take 18 months to clear the debris, but many of us said that's not acceptable. So as a result, they sped it up, and it was done within 6 months, which is the fastest residential wildfire cleanup in U.S. history. So that was good.
Yeah, that has certainly been accelerated, Congresswoman. But you mentioned about the FEMA money and the FEMA relief, and respectfully, what I'm hearing on the ground from folks is outside of and I understand. Let's just for the audience, you don't administer or run FEMA, so that's not you and your committee loosen up the purse strings, right, or allocate, right? But you don't actually run it. So let's just be clear with that. But many of the people I've spoken with haven't received more than the $700 and so that was initially. They've been through the process, and I guess my question is, and this is kind of back framed into the possibility of a governmental shutdown. I think the question that the constituents are having is, hey, I haven't even received the money yet. If the government shuts down, how will that impact FEMA or the SBA helping me when it's really time, like right now, to receive that money?
Well, it would be devastating on so many levels because there wouldn't be anybody to administer this money. They would not be in the office if there is indeed a government shutdown. However, I do have to say that there should have been the dispensation of this money before now, because it's been 6 months. And what FEMA is supposed to have done is to have signed people up and then determined that they are indeed disaster survivors. And then there's a potential of $43,700 twice over in different funds to help the survivors with such things as temporary housing and temporary supplies that they need in order to survive. So if there is a holdup in that, there is something wrong. And I would invite those persons to call my office to see what we can do to intervene.
Well, you heard it here, folks, directly from Congresswoman Judy Chu, who is the representative of the 28th District, represents Altadena, Pasadena area. And as some have said, they have not received resources or relief aid from FEMA. She's invited you to call her office, and we'll make sure that you the listening audience, has that information before we leave our conversation here today, Congresswoman.
Yeah.
Because I know you were advising and encouraging FEMA to expand the coverage. You also had President Trump, you authored some legislation that would help folks with mortgage relief. That's another thing that people are facing, foreclosures, and that's HR 2928. Where are we with that, and when is that going into effect?
So HR 2928 is a bill that I have introduced that would provide homeowners in presidentially declared disaster areas who have a federally backed mortgage with 180 days of mortgage forbearance, with the option of extending it for an additional 180 days. So that's 6 months for the first time period and then 6 months for the second time period. Now, we were told by the mortgage companies that that is what they are doing. And the bill itself hasn't passed yet. It has been introduced, and also I'm gratified that Senator Schiff and Bennett also introduced the Senate version of my bill. It is to ensure that in future disasters that there is that mortgage forbearance, because the last thing you need is to pay on a mortgage for a home that doesn't even exist. It is absolutely outrageous to have to do that. So we want to ensure that for this disaster and future disasters, that homeowners aren't made to go through that at the lowest point of their lives.
Okay. And I don't know if you may have an answer for this right now, but understanding tax relief, a lot of the challenges, and I want to use my time wisely, but a lot of the challenges, there's been millions of dollars raised that have been dispersed throughout different places. But what people really need is cash, right? Cash to rebuild, to make up the gaps. And my understanding is the tax code allows disaster relief payments without it being a burden on the recipient or a tax bill. Is there anything else that perhaps Congress can do to help relax that helps get money or cash directly in the hands of fire survivors so they can start their rebuilding process?
Well, one thing that did pass was a bill saying that if there is a payment, a settlement from a particular wildfire, that payment would not be taxed. So that was indeed immediate relief for fire survivors. But yes, the money that should have come in from FEMA should have provided that type of cash so that people could live on a day-to-day basis. I would also have to say that nonprofit organizations have risen to the occasion, and so there are numerous entities that are distributing such cash for basic survival, and we have a list of them too. So if you call my office, then we can refer you to them.
Absolutely. And our final couple of minutes here, what are you working on? What can we expect from you? I know you've been a strong advocate for your constituents here. I don't think I can find someone that is displeased with you. But this is certainly a difficult and trying time amongst the other things that you're working on behalf of the American citizens. But what can we expect from you? Is there anything you'd like for your constituents to know?
Yeah, I definitely would. I am pushing for the $34 billion in disaster supplemental aid that Governor Newsom called for. And we're doing it in conjunction with North Carolina. I am actually leading a letter right now signed by different Congress members to to say that if there is any big bill going forward, that there should be that disaster supplemental aid for both North Carolina and for our area. Now, the reason I include their area is a red state and we are a blue state. And I just want to make sure that we are balanced, because wildfires certainly know no political jurisdiction and they don't have a political party. So they should be able to give disaster supplemental aid to both areas without strings attached. So that is uppermost of importance. I do want to say also, though, I introduced a bill where I am aiming to ensure that disaster survivors don't have to worry about being evicted or foreclosed on as they're picking up the pieces of their lives. This bill would provide an eviction moratorium for 4 months and a moratorium on foreclosures for 6 months. So that would provide housing stability for survivors. And then I just introduced the Higher Credit Act, which would get victims of federally designated disasters like the Eaton Fire to get back into the workforce and have first priority in terms of being hired.
Okay. Well, that's Congresswoman Judy Chu. How can people reach you? What's your field office number?
Yes, I am in Pasadena on Lake and California, but the phone number's 626-304-0110. And you can call and my staff would be very, very happy to take your call and see if they can resolve whatever issue you have.
Awesome. Thank you. That's Congresswoman Judy Chu. She represents the 28th district. That is the district right here we're in Pasadena, Altadena community. And when we come forward, Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. When we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to look inside the recent report of the Fire Aid concert funds that has just been made public. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. We got you.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Somewhere inside my childhood when it's my heart die. And even though we both came from the same places, the money and the fame made us all change places. How could it be through the misery that came to pass? The hard times make a true friend afraid to ask for currency, but you can run to me when you need, and I never leave. Honestly, someone to believe in. As you can see, it's a small thing to a truth. What could I do? Real homies help you get through. And coming new, he do the same thing if he could. Cause in the hood, true homies make you feel good. And
KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm James Farr, your host, and we're sponsored in part by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. So I really wanted to talk about this this report that was just made available. As you know, many in the community, many fire survivors have decried transparency with the relief concert that took place both at the Intuit Dome as well as the other venue was slipping my mind, but two events that happened simultaneously. A gaggle of stars, if you will, celebrities, entertainers, all participated, as well as some local folks who were paraded onto the stage, and they shared their stories. $100 million was reportedly raised, and many have said they haven't received it. I'll get into the disaster capitalism part of it, but I want to roll this for you so you have a little bit more context on the report.
Fire Aid benefit concert raised $100 million to help in the recovery from the Palisades and the Eaton fires, but many have questioned where the money went and why they did not personally receive any of it. An investigation by a global law firm sheds some light. Eyewitness News reporter Kevin Ozebek follows the money trail in this 7 on Your Side investigation.
It was the big concert that raised a big amount of cash. Roughly $100 million was raised during the Fire Aid benefit concert. And some fire survivors have questioned why they've never seen a penny of it. But today, law firm Latham & Watkins released its investigative report into the concert, concluding that we have not identified evidence of any improper use or misappropriation of funds, fraudulent intent, or deviation from Fire Aid's stated mission. The report makes it clear that Fire Aid organizers never intended to send money raised during this concert directly to survivors, but instead it would go to organizations helping those survivors. Organizations like Door of Hope, which received $100,000 in the first release of Fire Aid funds.
Oh, this is cool. This is the chair. This is the studio chair right here.
Some of that money that went to Door of Hope is helping Michael Towns rebuild his music teaching business and pay for his apartment rent after his Altadena home burned down to the ground. 7 on Your Side Investigates met Michael several months ago as we tracked where Fire Aid money has been spent.
I think as a lot of people think that there's no more resources at all and that everything is dry and there's no more help for anybody. And I'm here to say that that's not true.
Back in July, 7 on Your Side Investigates did report that several of the organizations receiving money did use some of the funds for administrative costs. That's strictly against Fire Aid rules. Fire Aid says it is working with those organizations to get that all corrected by the end of the year. Meanwhile, if you want to see every single organization receiving money from Fire Aid and how much, go to abc7.com. In the newsroom, Kevin Ozebek.
And welcome forward. So that report from Channel 7, and you can read, there's a few different reports if you want to read there. And there's one in the RAG, the New York Post, LA Times does it, pretty balanced look at it. And you can also go directly to the Fire Aid website, Fire Aid concert website, and the report is right there. I said I wanted to hear from you guys, and I still want to hear from you. The phone is open, 800-920-1580. If you want to jump in and weigh in on this, I'll weigh in on it, but I want to hear from you. We have Larry calling. He's from the 626. What you got for us this morning, brother?
Great show. Another great show.
Thank you.
My comments about this is something that I'm hearing echoing from a lot of people who have been affected by the fires.
What are you hearing, Larry?
What I'm hearing is that where is the money? And this program is showing that there's been $100 million raised, but of the 30 to 40 people or families affected that I've been able to talk to, that I've been able to witness, some from my own family, they haven't seen the money. So I'm not sure whether it's a problem with access or marketing of these funds or exactly what the issue is, but hearing that there was $100 million raised and we don't know exactly where it went or how much.
We see where the money went right here in this report. It's, the maths, they added it up. Fire Aid never said that they were going to put money directly in people's hands, right? So here's the money. I guess you're
right. But
we're hearing the same thing. Yeah, but
where's the impact at? I think that's what's most important. If we're not going to give it directly to the people, where is the impact at? Where is the actual impact? Where is it showing up at? You give a $300,000 to one organization. Where has that organization's impact been on the individuals?
Well, I don't pretend to know all of the organizations that are listed. I know some of them, right? And some of them I've seen, do on the ground relief work by way of giveaways, resource giveaways, food giveaways, clothing giveaways. But as sounds like what you're saying is the same thing I'm saying, which is what many of the community is saying. And Martin Gordon said right here on this program, and many others, where's the money directly to those who are survivors? Where's the money going to them? So what do you think needs to be done, Larry?
I think what needs to be done is more community outreach. I think that
I think we may have lost Larry. He said more community outreach. Well, I think most of these organizations there are greatly involved in community outreach. But let's be clear. Most of these organizations and most of us, this radio station included, we didn't have a disaster response show. Most of these organizations were not in the business of disaster relief either, right? They are community-based organizations that one of the things that it didn't necessarily take this fire to show us is we've seen this coming through COVID. We just look at the last 5 years, kind of how polarized it was with COVID. There's a need in the community. There's a shortage in the community. But what this really amounts to, and I appreciate your call, Larry, we lost you in there, but really what we're seeing is disaster capitalism play out. We're seeing a redistribution of wealth. And what I mean by that, I was asked, what do you mean by that? I shared that with a colleague. The transparency is there. But here's what's happening, right? Organization A does giveaway B. They buy everything they need to give away to the community. That means everyone in that supply chain is participating in that economy. And so while some are hemming and hawing about an organization getting $100,000 or $200,000 or $150,000 or whatever, that's not a lot of money in one organization to do a whole lot with. And that's certainly not enough money for one person to begin their rebuild on. When money is passed from, the people who intended to give it to those, maybe perhaps they didn't understand it. It was never going directly into the hands of the people. But I do know of at least, it's not my story to tell, that organization will tell their story at some point, those two organizations. But I do know there are some organizations that every dollar that they received from this fire aid donation, they identified families and divided that money up evenly and put it in their hands. When we come forward, we'll have some updates from our Altadena Rising, only on KBLA Talk 1580. We're sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. When the flames subside, who ensures that the stories endure? At KBLA Talk 1580, we're committed to preserving the voices that shape our community. We know people have short memories. And as long as this Black Talk radio station is on the air, we will not let Altadena be forgotten. We are honored to announce that the Altadena Historical Society will officially archive our recent town hall alongside every episode of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This is the show of record, the definitive source for tracking Altadena's roots, resilience, recovery, and reunion. These stories will now live on for students, scholars, researchers, and journalists seeking truth and legacy in the months and years to come. Because history isn't just made, it's honored, it's recorded, and it's passed forward. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580. Come on.
KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the conversation live, Altadena Rising, and I'm your host, James Farr. We're sponsored in part by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. It's that time of the program where we have some weekly updates, things you may want to pay attention to, and recommend that you go over to the Altadena Rising Instagram page. It's a curated, vetted, safe place that you can go to and find out more information about what's happening in and around the community. Yes, you've missed the submission deadline for the TEDx Altadena event. That did happen on Tuesday, but that event is coming up October the 26th at the Altadena Library, and you go over to the TEDx Altadena.com page for more information, see how you can be in attendance and in the certainly be in the audience. I know TEDx events are all about sharing ideas, big ideas, right? And so if you're looking forward to their final selections, we'll be announcing those as soon as they let us know. I'm sure they got a curated good list. Also coming up on Saturday, October the 4th, is the Black Education Expo, and that's at the Pasadena Convention Center, and it's co-presented by council member Tyron Hampton. You know, our children, and we're going to talk more about how children are just dealing with all of this, but we'll get more into that impact. You heard from Principal Lawton Gray, John Muir High School, just before the school year started. But the Black Education Expo is a resource center event, I should say. It's really geared towards engaging, younger students, their parents, their community. I just think of the host and myriad of resources that are available. You think about tutoring. I don't know about y'all, but this 5th grade math and this Common Core stuff it ain't no joke, right? I mean, math is different. And so I can just only imagine, the other stressors that so many people are having to deal with, that this would just, doing homework, 5th grade homework is just something else that you don't want to have to deal with. And then lastly, if you haven't checked out the new health and wellness platform and downloaded the KBLA Talk 1580 app, I think this was curated for me. And maybe perhaps for you too, but it is a resource of information. We got to take care of ourselves. It's okay to pause, have those, self-care days, or just call a time out, but really check in with your friends, your loved ones, especially with all this stuff that we have going on. When we come forward, I got a Saturday slap that has a message in the music, only on KBLA Talk 1580, your ancestors' favorite radio station.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley Show conversation with James Farr. At one point, James said something that caught me off guard. Not because it wasn't true, but because it is. Black Altadena is gone. I know it may seem stupid and non-productive, but I stopped in that moment listening to Tavis and James. I broke down and cried. In the back of my mind, I told myself we can bring it back like it was. But James Farr's reality check hit me like a ton of bricks. My community is being murdered. I said murdered, not by the Altadena Eaton Fire, but by the people we elect to protect us, and by greedy and gatekeeping nonprofits who cannot see the forest for the trees. For the first time since the fire, I truly feel and understand my wife's inconsolable pain. Because I'm struggling to find a path to recovery and at least some form of normalcy. My community is crumbling right in front of my face. Lack of funding to rebuild is slowly destroying us. Many of us can no longer hold out, and developers are gobbling up our property. When I hear voices like Tavis Smiley and James Farr speak truth to power on KBLA Talk 1580, it reminds me that we're not crazy, just unheard. Make no mistake here, KBLA delegation, this is war, and we the people of Black Altadena are losing. It's like waiting for reparation. Not gonna happen, brother. In this new orange man world, no one, no entity is persuaded by right or wrong. There is no consequence for doing the wrong thing, and no accolades or support for doing the right thing. Will war-torn Black Altadena survive? Your guess is as good as mine. But what have I got to lose? I'm in my 70s and don't have time to wait. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once suggested that riots break out when people have no hope. But there's nothing left to burn down in Altadena. I wish I could say I remain hopeful that my beloved community will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. I wish I could. With a KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Pasadena Community Coalition at gmail.com. Reach out to me. As always, we welcome your feedback.
KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
KBLA Talk 1580, you're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and I'm your host, James Farr. We are sponsored by Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. It's that time of the program. You know, we call this last few minutes, it's our Saturday Slap. It's a segment where I play a message that... a song rather that has a message in the music, and sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, but for me it's it's kind of how I'm feeling in that moment. I've been on some Pac stuff today. There's just such an intersection. I was talking about it earlier today. I remember exactly where I was, and in Oakland, in a meeting with Reverend Jesse Jackson and some other business people. Different life, different situation, but it was just this intersection that I still hold on to. What Reverend Jackson what he was talking about with the group is that. And I guess this is the intersection of how this show and kind of everything is. But what Reverend Jackson was telling the group is that he had his hands around the neck of the situation. And he would not take his hands off of the neck, right? And while he was choking the situation to make it better, he needed those that were around him who were there to pick up the fruit, right? The proverbial fruit as he kind of choked it out. And so it was just one of the moments where it was this intersection. It was the same day that Tupac died. Earlier that year, I produced Tupac's last live concert, July 4th, 1996 at the House of Blues.
Shall not fear no man but God. Though I walk through the valley of death, it shall so many tears.
I should die before I wake.
Please, God, walk with me.
Grab it and take me to heaven.
Back in elementary, I thrived on misery. Left me alone, I grew up amongst a dying breed. Inside my mind, couldn't find a place to rest until I got that Doug life tatted on my chest. Tell me, can you feel me? I'm not living in the past. You wanna last? Be the first to blast. Remember Cato? No longer with us, see deceits. Call on the sirens. Seen them murdered in the streets. Now rest in peace. Is there heaven for a G? Remember me? So many homies in the cemetery shed so many tears. I suffered through the years and shed so many tears. Lord, I lost so many peers and shed so many tears. Now that I'm struggling in this business by any means, label me greedy, getting green, but seldom seen. And the world, cause I'm cursed. I'm having visions of leaving here in the hearse. God, can you feel? Take me away from all the pressure and all the
Man, we still shedding tears for Pac. Wonder what he would say if he were here with us, but that's another show. That's another show for another day. Shout out to Kim, Nyla, Reggie. Tiana does the graphics. Simeon on the boards. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. You on point today. Angela Roddick Wright is up next with The Legal Lens. She has an amazing show, and until we have another opportunity to speak, I'll see y'all next week. Agape.
There was no mercy on the streets, I couldn't rest. I'm barely standing, about to go to pieces, screaming peace. And though my soul was deleted, I couldn't see it. I had my mind full of demons trying to break free. They planted seeds and they hatched, sparking the flame inside my brain like a match. Such a dirty